Hello everybody and welcome to this week's Trimcraft Tuesday video. This week I am scrapbooking with the first edition Chasing Rainbows paper pads. These are paper pads that I know many of you really love, and I realised I had not scrapbooked with it yet. This layout is quite a quick one actually for me, and it's all about using up your scraps, of which I have many from these paper pads. You can see my pile there on the right. I just started off, obviously I'm using a white background, and I started off doing some packaging technique with Distress Oxide spray in Picked Raspberry, because it's a very bright, rainbowy, fun, colourful layout, but a lot of that does end up getting covered up, so it may have been a waste of time in hindsight, but never mind, you can see a bit of it. But what I'm doing here is I'm going through all my scraps and just cutting lots of squares and rectangles and strips of various shapes and sizes. I am not measuring any of them, I'm totally eyeballing it, making sure I have a mix of quite big ones, quite little ones, etc, etc, and also making sure I've got like a representation of every single I don't think I use every single paper, but I've got most of them, and I think every colour from the paper pad is at least represented. And what I'm going to do with these is just build up this diagonal line or diagonal stripe of squares and rectangles. And the way I decided to do this is I started trying to figure out all of them at once, and then I thought this is just not going to work. So what I'm doing is I'm doing sort of 3 or 4 at a time, sticking those down and then figuring out the next layer, sticking those down, figuring out the next layer, and so on, just to, yeah, I got a better idea of what I was doing that way rather than trying to figure it out all straight away at the beginning. I am obviously starting with the bigger squares as well, because that's just the obvious thing to do, start with the big ones and then build up from there, going smaller and smaller. I'm going to go around every single piece with, this is Distress Oxide in Hickory Smoke, so it's a very dark grey. The reason I went for the grey rather than a black colour, basically the reason I'm doing it is because then it makes every single pattern stand out. If you didn't go around the edges with something, they'd all sort of blend in together and it would look a bit too messy, which is a weird way to put it because it is quite a messy layout, but yeah, they would blend in together too much. So just going around the edges just, yeah, highlights each and every single pattern and each and every shape. But if I did it in black, that would be far too strong and far too in your face. So doing it with the grey, it kind of looks black, but it's not. So here I am, just, yeah, as I said, doing layers at a time, figuring out 3 or 4 pieces at once, sort of holding them roughly where I want them. Then I go around with the Hickory Smoke Oxide and then just put them all down, all with the double-sided tape. You can see that build up there on the right of all my little tape backing curls. So I just keep going with that. I think I'm nearly done with this part. There are some pieces, you know, I held them up against and I figured out they were a bit too big or a bit too small or whatever, so I either got a different piece or I trimmed down another piece, and it took about 20 minutes to do the whole thing, I think, and that's probably because I was also filming at the same time. I have to make sure I'm in shot and all that kind of thing. So I think we are towards the end with these last 3 pieces, I think. I'll just get rid of some of my little tape backing pieces there. Okay, so that's all the big pieces down, and then I'm going through, I've got a little bag of small scraps and also little cut out pieces from, the paper pad has this cut apart sheet, labels and tags sheet, and I wanted to use those. This layout, by the way, is very much only the paper pad. I do use a couple of extra bits at the very end, but it is, yeah, very much just Chasing Rainbows. So doing some little bits and pieces here, and with the little bits and pieces is where I started to add some of the speciality papers as well. So we've got the iridescent paper and the iridescent paper with the rainbow stripes on there. I decided to only use small pieces of these because if I use the big ones, they would just take far too much attention away from the photo, and I also knew I wanted to back my photo with some hollow card to really help it stand out. The photo, by the way, is a picture of myself and my 3 sisters at one of their birthday parties earlier this year. It's just a fun picture of us all, and because it was like at the party and there's all this kind of lighting and stuff, it went really nice with the sort of rainbow theme. And also it's a colourful photo, but it's also quite dark, so again it stands out really well against that busy rainbow background. I did add another larger piece there just because I thought there needed to be another little bit of blue colouring. As I said, I backed my photo with the hollow card. That's the Trimcraft holographic card. I love that stuff so much. Every time I go to link it for videos, it's always out of stock, so if you see it and it's in stock, then grab it. I'm going to do that myself because it's becoming one of my most important basic items to use. I love it so much. Anyways, prop that photo up on some foam, and then I've chosen some little bits and pieces to add, like the little phrases and things from the cut apart sheet, and these two little sort of square pieces that have got an empty space in the middle, and they needed to have ink around them to match the rest of the layout, but if I used the black, they would again, well, not the black, the grey, they would blend in too much, so I went around those with some silver metallic ink, so they match but they stand out even more. So I've got the Shine Bright, I've got, what's this one say? Make Dreams Happen, and then there's the one that says I love you more than rainbows. I thought that would do quite nicely as my title, as it's nice and big. That's the one from the 8x8 paper pad, by the way. The one from the 12x12 was a little too big to use on this layout. Here I'm just adding some little tiny words in those little white spaces on those cards I'd added, partially because I had been a bit messy with the ink and got some ink on them, so I just covered them up with those metallic, silver metallic tiny words from Tim Holtz. This little strip here, in the picture at the side there was like two people having a conversation in the background and you could really see the lady's face, and no offence to that lady whatsoever, but it just like distracted away from the four sisters. So I've just covered that up with that little banner there. Again, that was from the cut apart sheet, but I've just cut a little banner fishtail ending into it. Here I am adding some little heart punch pieces, again from that hollow card, just using a little 1 centimetre heart punch, which I've had for about 1,000 years. I have no idea where I bought it from. And then covering up my photo with a piece of scrap there to add some splatters of that picked raspberry oxide spray, because as you can very much see, I covered up most of what I'd done with that before, so I just wanted to bring that colour back in again because that bright pink works so well with all of this. And then finishing off with some Trimcraft 3D Pearl Effects, the bright pink one, and then I'm going to tap those from behind to level them out, and I love the way these finish off. The difference between the Trimcraft Pearl Effects and Nouveau Drops is the Trimcraft ones, you do have to tap them from behind to level them out, but then they look so much like enamel dots, way more than Nouveau Drops do, so there are times when I just think they kind of work a little bit better, quite frankly. I still love my Nouveau Drops, obviously, but times like this, they just, yes, that's what you need. So, there we go. I am finished. Thank you so much for watching as always. I will leave Trimcraft links as well as product links in the description box. Please leave me a thumbs up if you enjoyed, chat to me in the comments, and yeah, I'm going. Thanks again. Bye bye!